Hey, everybody. I am so pleased to be joined today by Martina Matheson. We're going to be talking about communication, building relationships through better communication, and Marie Antoinette. Bet you didn't see that coming. Martina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dean.
Uh, so, we were talking a little bit before this, and you have some really fascinating stuff in the journey of getting to where you are today. And I think there's some tidbits in there for new and current speakers that are good things for us to remember or to put into practice. And what I want to start with is the earlier part of your journey. Today, you work with, as you shared, you work with municipalities, you work with library leaders and staff, helping them improve their communication skills. Tell me a little bit about that, and then we're going to go back to how you got there.
I work with staff. I have four different programs that I currently offer, which might be the opposite of what I would ideally like is to just grow and blossom with one idea. But I started with keeping cool under pressure, and then I built into standing ovation customer service and the body language of relationship building, and diffusing the time bomb is the name of a program, which is a productivity training. And I wanted to find out in the areas that I work, my audience is library staff and municipal staff, which programs they would gravitate to. So I kind of flew them all up the flagpole to see what they would respond to. It turns out that today it's keeping cool under pressure.
That's very cool. I'm looking forward to learning more about that work that you're doing, but tell us about how you got there. So you have a history as an educational entertainer, which is where Marie Antoinette enters the story. Give us a lay of the land of your background and how that's informed some of the work that you're doing today.
Well, I have I have triplets. When you have multiples, things happen fast and furious. It's a new chapter of life, and I wanted to do something interesting and exciting and keep my family together. I was exposed to a woman who did Catherine the Great. I didn't know this was a thing. It was a luncheon, and she was the entertainment. It was a first person costumed narrative. And I thought, wow, that is really fascinating. A full room, and they loved her. I introduced myself to her and found out more. And I dove right in. And I'm asked sometimes, why Marie Antoinette? Did I find her a historically fascinating person? Which she is, and not at all what I thought she'd be. But the truth is, I chose her because she had big hair and a big dress, and I thought that I could market her, and it was true. I got on the phone and I began with Marie Antoinette, and then it grew into 11 different people over the last 11 years, and I built it to doing about 200, low 200s programs a year.
That's fascinating. So let's look at this kind of in a really practical sense. You said you started building it, so you started from scratch. You weren't taking over somebody else that was already doing Marie Antoinette and taking over her book of business. You started from zero. Walk us through that year one. Like, what are the building blocks of going from zero to something that's really successful?
Well, Dean, you might know it starts as an exercise in self-doubt. Is this even possible? I needed to see and know that it was possible. And I spoke to someone who happens to be the current program director for the NSA, Chris Carter. And I asked him, I've got four kids and I don't want to lose my house. Is this possible? And he gave me the advice of everything you do that's not toward your goal is away from it, and to focus on what it is that you want to do. So I needed to kind of visualize and see how this would work. So I set up a calendar for myself, and with little orange tags. Each orange tag represented a gig. I thought, well, I'd like to do one on Monday and Wednesday, and maybe here's a Saturday, and I'll do a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I set up a whole month so that I could see what it looked like. And I began with snail mail and following up with phone calls. And I did the 5 phone calls a day. I made a phone call, which I did not want to make. But when I made that first, I made the second. Then I felt I was almost halfway there with the third. And then by the fourth and the fifth, I was into the groove, and sometimes I would make more than that. But the secret, I think, was taking what I was doing as far as connecting with the audience very seriously, finding ways and means to do that, to make it interactive. And each time that I performed, I would uh, follow up with the activity director. I made sure that I had everything that was needed except the people in the chairs. So I had a screen and a projector and a sound system and my laptop and the cords, the HDMI, whatever I needed, so that should something go wrong, I was able to step in. And so the activity directors, the coordinators, and the people who were putting together the programs knew that when I showed up, I'd have everything that was needed and that they didn't have to worry. So I had a 3-ring binder. This is old. And I had a sheet for every person that I wanted to connect with. And I would write down, I connected by mail, I connected by snail mail, by email, I called them, I left a message, whatever it was. And there was one in particular, I remember, that I contacted them 15 times. And I remember that because on the 16th time, she responded to me by saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. I've been seeing your name. I meant to reach out to you." And I was, making myself cringe. I don't know if I need to contact this person, but it was a system and I was doing it. I was making the calls. And then Christopher Carter recommended that I get a CRM, pull it out of the 3-ring binder and into this century. And I was really glad I did. So the CRM allowed me to reach people on a consistent basis after the program. So they would get a 1 week before, 2 days before, the day of an introduction, the day after a thank you. And then I sent about every 30 days and then sometimes 40 days throughout the next year for them to hear from me. Well, this is another program that I have going and keep me on your radar. And it built this book of business to where I don't do any reach out in that regard at all. And I'm starting to fill up 2025, and I want to focus on the speaking instead of the entertaining. So it's an interesting situation to be in.
That's really, I mean, just some really important principles that you hit on there. I mean, uh, knowing what you want and making sure that every activity that you're doing is moving you closer to that. And if it's not moving you to that, it's moving you away from that. Really kind of wise operating principle. Having a visual aspect. You said I could see it on my calendar, what my goal was, how I was doing on that. You developed a routine and a system to challenge yourself. You said, I'm going to make 5 calls a day, whether I want to. Like, nobody really gets up in the morning and says, oh, I want to reach out and be annoying to somebody and interrupt their workflow. But you did it, and that began to seed the progress that you experienced. And then ultimately, I imagine running in the background, when you delivered, you actually did a great job, right? So all of us as speakers have to be able to deliver the goods. We really have two parts to the business. We have how good are we on our training or our delivery of our speech. So we have to be good, but then we also have to be good at how do we run our business? What's our marketing system? What's our follow-up? What's our administrative? And both of those have to come together to be a good business. You could have the perfect marketing plan and business system in the world, but if we're no good, we're not going to get hired or referred,
Well,
right?
certainly. But I would like to go back to something you just said, and that is that thought of interrupting somebody's workflow. You're interrupting their day. I have to say that since I knew who I was contacting, I'm contacting people who need after lunch entertainment, who are looking for something new and fresh and different. I actually recognized that my purpose was to help them do their job better. And so I felt like I needed to connect with them because I'm a pro and they're looking and wanting someone as a pro to fill into that spot. I
Critical point.
also just
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge for me, I'm visual and I needed to see that calendar. I also knew that I needed, if I made, I don't remember now, this is 11 years ago, but in the very, very beginning, I needed to make so many phone calls to reach one person. So I made a little boxes on a long, 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 long piece of paper. I needed to make all these phone calls and it was intimidating. So I folded it up and I only saw 10 at a time. So once I accomplished those 10, I felt good about it. I can do this. And then I did the next 10 and the next 10 until I'd filled up the whole paper. And then in the 3-ring binder that had my lead sheet, when I booked a deal, I took a yellow highlighter and I marked, I got that one. So I'm flipping through my book and I go, oh, that's yellow, that's yellow. And it helped me know that this is working. I need to do more of it to get more of what I want. And it did work.
Some key points there, and I'm glad you came back to that because as soon as I said it, I thought, that can be the story we tell ourselves that I'm being an interrupter. But the reality is, when we know that we have something that is going to be helpful to them, we have to make the call. We have to let them know because there's people that are, to your point, looking for programming. They're looking for that they want to look good, and if I can be somebody that helps them look good, they're going to want to hear from me, right? So, what's our mindset as we get into that groove of making those calls is so important. And you had a clarity of here's what I have to offer. You put together some form of system, even though it's basic, and that's the best system is really a simple, basic, do it by
Very
hand,
basic.
and then execute. And those are the key 3 points. And it's easy for us to, for any of us, to get distracted by bells and whistles and fancy CRMs and how everything should be perfect. But it's like 3-ring binder, know what you can deliver, and start making calls is where it all
Yeah.
begins.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And there's for this next phase, I can see early a real helper, and that is the pre-event calls. So before I do a training with the staff, I have a list of questions that I want to know before I go in. And the very last one came from Shep Hyken. And he said, ask them for this event to be a success. No, no, no. What would make this event a success to you? And so many times oh, that's a good question. And then they tell me exactly what I need to do for that event. Well, I really want to make sure that my people connect. Well, I really want to make sure that there's one idea that they can find actionable. They tell me what's most important. And then when I focus on that, I found it to be very, very effective in
such a
getting booked
powerful
again with the same person.
powerful question and a powerful moment when we're doing that exploratory call or that pre-call prep. Whether it's what's going to make it amazing. What do you want to hear from the attendees after my session? What are you hoping to hear? Or I've even asked, what are some of the things when you've brought others in before that you've found frustrating?
Yes. And
And they'll
I
tell you.
think they will. I think as long as you do more listening than speaking on that call, it will serve you well.
For sure. And then,
Mhm.
do you have post event calls, or how do you handle it with your client after you've delivered your training or your event?
Well, what I have put together is a series of 6 little short mini videos, and I like the NSA accelerator idea. And everyone knows you're in a meeting or a program, an event, and it's exciting, and you have kind of new ideas, and you're motivated, and then you fall back into the pattern that's so familiar once you get back to work. So I just take some highlights, and I just talk about one and deliver it to them every Monday for 6 weeks after that. And
I
they
love it.
love it up because it's just a little bit of an extra. And it's also a way for me to stay in front of them as a valuable contributor to their staff's continuing education, professional development.
That's awesome. I love it. Right. So it keeps you in front of it. As we know about adult education, we're going to lose a big majority of what we've been introduced to within 60 days of the event. So
Right.
you're really delivering that support, and it's solidifying you as being different and keeping your name in front of them coming out of that. And I think you talk about having really a signature program, but I think with your audience, them having other things to choose from in your program portfolio, probably increases the frequency that they bring you back. Is that what you're finding with your
That is
audience?
what I'm finding. And those accelerated videos that happen afterwards is something to talk about when they're talking in their directors networking platforms, wherever that may be, that I don't have access to. That is keeping me oh, I heard about you, I'm hearing all the time. And then me being a real person, there's it seems more connective and engaging with their staff. So I just am top of mind. Well, she had another program about productivity. Let's give that a try. That's what's working for me right now. Now, I'm also exploring and figuring this out. So there were 11 years of educational entertainment, and now I would like to get out of the wig and costume and show up as Martina. So this is what is developing, but I'm using what was successful before to work out the success for this round. And it's kind of exciting.
That's awesome. I love it. And no doubt with what you done before, you're applying those principles with starting something new and fresh. And I would imagine that the entertainment background helps you be really a stand apart and how it informs the training experience for the people in the room because of that history that you have of knowing how to engage people. And what I encounter with some of the other people that do, let's say, business training, the risk is it can be fairly pedantic. It can be fairly boring and too reminiscent for a lot of people of their college lecture classes. And that's not what we want to bring. We want to bring
No.
engagement and inspiration and action. So, very cool. This has been awesome, Martina.
Thanks,
I'm
Dean.
taking down ideas that I'm going to put into practice and things that I'm thinking about as we're talking. And if people that are watching this, whether they are other speakers, aspiring speakers, or even people that hire people like you, perhaps they are a public works director or somebody in charge of a library staff. Hey, that'd be great. How should people connect with you, get a hold of you, stay in touch with Martina?
Uh, Email info@martinamatheson.com or my website, martinamatheson.com.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom here today with us, Martina.
Well, thank you, Dean. This is just delightful. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.